Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hey, guys.
And Jason.
Hey, everyone.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you, Dustin?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not great, but I'm glad to be here.
All right.
Was the 5 count too long for the gap? A little too much?
I liked it. Mm-hmm. I think it might raise people's expectations and like, what's coming next?
Yeah. Or I'm hoping that somebody thinks that the sound cut out and and they turn it up, and then Dustin's like, "How you doing?" And then it just blows up their speakers.
Well, the winter season is upon us.
Sure is, isn't it great? Getting dark at 5:30.
Jason, you have picked for us a very fitting film.
Yes, I think so. Although I think I made a mistake because technically I don't think this is a Christmas film.
It's technically a New Year's film.
But I mean, that's
in the
basically the
ballpark.
same thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about The Children from 2008, but first, like always, let's warm up a little bit and talk about what we've been watching recently.
Yeah, I have a good one this time, believe it or not.
Do it.
Okay.
Go.
All right. I watched the new Candyman film.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I still need to get around to it.
Yes. I liked it very much.
Okay, cool.
I think it's very good. It's very well made. Well acted. It's a pretty smart script, I think. It is a true sequel to Candyman.
Okay.
And unlike certain other film franchises, it doesn't negate any other Candyman sequels in case you like them.
Interesting, yeah. There's all those Day of the Dead fans out there that just really...
Right. Well, I'm sure there are some of them.
Are there? Are there, though? Write in, let us know if you like the third Candyman film.
One of our 20 listeners is like, I like that movie.
Be that as it may, it doesn't feel the need to go out of its way and rewrite anything.
Good.
But it is good, a direct continuation, and I don't want to say too much about it because it's still kind of new. A lot of people haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. I would if I were to rate it, I would probably give it 4 stars.
Huh, that's big for you.
Mm-hmm. That is pretty big, yeah.
Well, I know it caused a lot of controversy when it came out because everybody was like, I don't like politics in my movie. And I'm like, did you fucking see the first Candyman?
Well, that is Candyman, though.
I'm sorry.
Did you see it?
I'm sorry if a movie based on a black character who is lynched by a mob for a consensual relationship with a white woman becomes political for you. You know,
that just seems to be the climate currently.
I mean, if the movie warrants it, then that's the movie. That's
I'm sorry, a smart horror film with something to say bothers.
That was just my favorite. I wish politics would stay out of my movies. I'm like, I'm not sure that you watched Candyman. Like, did you? Okay, that's fine. Sure. Okay, this is fine.
But cool. I like it.
Well, awesome. That'll drive me more toward checking it out. Finally.
Good. I think you should.
I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go or me?
I can go.
Okay.
So, Jason, you're actually in on this one, too. I wanted to circle back and talk about this just because we've mentioned the other ones in the series. Severin put out like a little trilogy of 3 post-apocalyptic films from the 80s. And over the year, we've been watching through them. And so we finally checked out the final one, Joe D'Amato's Endgame from 1983.
Yes.
And it is very what you would expect from an Italian 80s film.
That's what you would expect from Joe D'Amato.
It's very what you expect from Joe D'Amato. Yeah, wow, it's just like, it's in the future. There's a whole nuclear fallout. It starts with this, like, quote, endgame that they're playing, and it's like the whole, like, televised death game kind of thing. And what's crazy is, like, you think that's the whole movie. Like, it's going to be this game and this dude trying to survive. And that's just, like, the first act, and it's not even, like, 20 minutes maybe, even
right.
that? Yeah,
it sets
they
things
just
up.
blow through it. And then the rest of the film is like there's this gang of mutants that have psychic powers.
Yeah, I'm in, yeah.
And they hired the lead to kind of lead them out of the, corporation-controlled city and into the wilderness where there's, like, a safe haven for them. Because, of course, mutants are outlawed. Because they're dangerous, right? Of course.
It's starting to sound like the life that I want.
It sounds fucking amazing. And, like, a Fallout game brought to the screen. You gotta temper your expectations. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it.
It's definitely a, beer and friends kind of movie.
Don't watch it soberly alone, sitting there in the dark, glued to the screen by yourself and expect this, like, cinematic experience or anything.
I think the really disappointing thing is that when we're always like, make sure you have a beer and a friend around for this. And people are like, I don't have any friends.
Well, at least get a beer. Get a beer. It does have George Eastman in it, who I like a lot.
And he actually survives to the end.
Yeah.
So I figured they were going to kill him off in that first little death game thing. And then
see.
they're going to be like, oh, it features George Eastman.
We had him for 2 days. And also Laura Gimser's in it. So if you're a big Black Emmanuel fan, you're set.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Endgame, check it out if you like post-apocalyptic movies.
Well, I'm going to go very opposite spectrum of that one. And I will talk about, since everybody gives me shit for talking about mainstream movies
okay.
on here, I watched Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Okay.
That was one I was really excited about when it came out, but I didn't get to go because it was at the theater, and I'm still not comfortable going to the theater yet. So Disney Plus dropped it on there finally.
Was it like $30 or was it free?
No, it's free.
Oh, of course. Why did I have to ask? He watched it. Obviously, it wasn't $30.
You think I'd pay $30?
That's a dumb question.
I mean, like the new James Bond is out to rent, but it's $20, and I'm like,
well, I have other trepidations about that one, but please continue.
Well, anyway, I actually really liked it. It's still a Marvel movie. There's no way around that. It's definitely a Marvel movie, and it's definitely a Marvel movie origin story.
I expected that.
Yeah, but it's really more of a Chinese fantasy. And what I really appreciated was that they went...
Like them owning Taiwan?
They're a very different fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Right. Now we can't air in China.
Oh,
now.
no.
You're going to have to go on
I have to apologize in Mandarin like
Mandarin.
John Cena.
Never.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that drew me to it as well is Simu Liu is the plays Shang-Chi, and he was in Kim's Convenience, which is a really
brought up before.
Silly comedy on Netflix. Which, side note, the dad, who's like in Kim's Convenience, is like the biggest nerd ever, and he actually showed up in The Mandalorian. He was one of the...
He's one of the pilots, right?
One of the pilots, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And he just got, I don't give a shit about this, but he just got cast as the uncle in the live-action Avatar thing. And, I'm not into Avatar, so I don't really care. But when I saw that, I was like, good for him, man. He's such a nerd that I just want to hang out with, that I just like seeing him get roles, because he's just cool. Anyway, sorry.
That's fine. He's a cool guy.
But the cool thing was that Marvel actually embraced having a lot of the film be in Mandarin, which I was genuinely surprised for. I wasn't really expecting that. But it's more whimsical of a story.
I guess the big thing you should say is right. The villain is played by Tony Leung. Right?
Yeah.
He's a big
he's
Hong Kong
awesome.
action star.
And he was great in it. He really was. Like, he was very subdued, but his presence alone, you could tell, like, this dude's royalty.
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh is in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So here's my question. What is the action like? Because that's what I wondered about.
It kind of splits in two sections. So, like, when it's grounded, like, it kind of... I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there's part of the film that takes place in a mystical realm.
Par for the course for Marvel these days.
Yeah, it takes place in a mystical realm. When it gets there, the action gets very Marvel-y. But when they're grounded in, like, on Earth, the action's really good. The fight scenes are very visible.
See, I wondered if they would try to adopt any of, like, the Hong Kong action film techniques. Because most Marvel stuff is, like, very, like, quick cuts.
They actually did. It seemed like, and I feel like shit that I don't know who was, like, the action choreographer or anything in this, but they actually did pan out and let you see the fights.
Good.
Which is
That's
really,
awesome.
really nice. You can see the choreography that went into it. There's a lot of acrobatics in the choreography, which is cool. Very
Nice.
old school Jackie Chan stuff. So, yeah, I absolutely loved all that. Like, if you've seen the trailer for the fight scene on the bus, that was cool. It was really cool.
That scene was why I wondered if maybe they were trying to mix it up a little bit.
And they did for the first half of the film, like, and really embrace that. Now, granted, when they get to the
Once you have, like, magic powers flying around and stuff, you kind of have to do it that way, I guess.
Yeah, but one of the creatures that is, like, one of the mystical creatures that's unleashed looks super fucking cool. It's really Lovecraftian, in a way. There's a lot of tentacles and weird shit coming out of it. But
All right, Jason.
yeah,
Well, now I'm interested.
Jason,
But it's not. It's not
for
Japanese, so I probably wouldn't. Yeah.
It's definitely not for you.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
not.
I've kind of tuned out of the whole superhero thing now, anyway.
But it was actually one of the ones I was really surprised about. Like I was pleasantly surprised to see some things go a little differently.
That's cool. I always loved those comics.
That's one I never knew much about. Like I read Iron Fist.
They're great.
Which apparently now that Marvel's getting ready to like kind of phase out Iron Fist and kind of put that more into the Shang-Chi realm.
That makes sense.
Especially since Iron Fist was kind of a strange thing to put a white guy in a like Asian dominated world. It's whatever. But also to be commended is there was a huge Asian cast in this. Like they didn't try to whitewash it very much at all, which was super cool. So it's streaming on Disney Plus. It's a little long, personally. I mean,
They all are.
I found myself taking Jason's stance. I was like, this is a little long.
See?
But
Would you say it was uneven?
No.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty straightforward through the whole thing.
Cool.
Surprise characters, like some cameos show up. They're really fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Since I'm the guy who brought Raya. The film that he watched.
That's fine. You bring any
You're
movie you want.
our Disney Plus correspondent, I guess.
You bring any movie you want.
Yeah, I brought a movie. I didn't bring a TV show.
Yeah.
So
Why are you guys staring at me?
Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. Check it out. Disney Plus. Pretty fun.
Awesome.
The Children.
Yes, from 2008, not the one from 1980. Was that produced by Troma, I think?
Yeah,
They
Troma
released
licensed it, I think.
Okay.
Well, 'cause when
Radioactive Children.
When I was looking for it, I made sure that I was watching the right movie.
Yes.
And I texted you just to make sure I didn't show up and like none of the plot points sounded right. Where do the radioactive ones come
No,
in?
I'm going to be honest. I looked up the trailer for the 80s one, and I was like, I kind of want to see this now. No, because it's so weird. It's like it's kids, and they get radioactive, and then that makes them get black fingernails. It's like so cool. Being radioactive makes you goth.
Yeah, obviously. That checks. That scans.
Man,
I started listening to
down.
the Bauhaus, too, I'm sure.
my high school days, I was radioactive.
All right, Jason, so what is this movie?
It is a 2008 British film by Tom Shankland, who had one credit before this, but this is the last movie he's done so far.
I understand why.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Holy shots fired
Just
before
right
we even...
over the bow.
Gee, I wonder what Michael thought.
Damn.
All right.
And people thought I was vicious about Hold the Dark.
But he's done a ton of TV work. You mentioned Iron Fist. He's actually done some episodes of that.
Well, it got canceled, so.
So this is Christmas horror, well, winter horror, I guess we
It
should say.
is. I thought it was a Christmas film, but it's actually a New Year's film. I mean, that's close enough, right?
Sure.
There's a lot
There
of
are
snow
presents
and
in the
stuff.
mix. And
Yeah, sure.
So
Right.
what's the general synopsis we're talking about here?
The general
what is
synopsis
this?
is we're looking at two families coming together for New Year's Eve. We have the one family is Elaine and Jonah, are the mother and the father, and they've got the oldest one is Casey, and she is like Jonah's stepdaughter, I believe.
Yeah.
And she's older, she's a teenager, whatever. And then they have two younger kids. Let's see, because the kids' names get me confused. Polly and Miranda. And even from the outstart, it's apparent that Jonah's favorite is Miranda, who he calls Princess and dotes on. And they're going to go see Elaine's sister Chloe, her husband Robbie, and their two children, Nikki and Leah.
This sounds like the opening to that Poison song, where they're like naming over each band member of Poison. Ricky, Bobby, Cece.
Yeah, okay.
But nominally, it's Casey that's kind of our main character that we
Yes.
focus on the most.
Yes.
She's got the typical teenager reaction of like she doesn't want to be there.
Sure. She's on her phone.
She could have been at a party, but she's had to do this family stuff.
Yes.
She's also dressed very 2008.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the purple streak in the hair. Looks like she's been to Hot Topic recently and is currently listening to My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, right.
Really 2008ing it up.
She's just discovered Rebellion.
She has a very, of that time, Emma Stone vibe. I'm going to say. Do you guys get that?
Sure, yeah.
Because the whole film I kept being like, I know I've seen her in other things. And I actually got Tiffany to watch this one with me. And like halfway through, I said it like for the 5th time, and she's like, "It's just because she looks like Emma Stone."
I mean, she's probably not wrong because she has a very familiar face, and so like.
But I looked. A lot of her stuff is mostly TV work.
Yeah, she did a lot of British TV work. So I hadn't seen any of that shit. So I had no idea who she was. But yeah, she was Emma Stone-ish.
And I thought she's good in the role, but her voice was kind of incongruous with her character. I thought because she has a great voice. You know, like kind of a cultured English accent, and it just, I don't know, kind of clashed with her character. But anyway.
That's a weird, creepy thing to say, Jason.
It's not creepy. She has a cool voice. So what?
You're like her uncle now.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we need to talk about that when we get a little into this.
Sorry.
Yeah,
you're not like her uncle.
Thank you.
You might go smoke weed in a...
well, I would probably do this, yes.
in a greenhouse.
Yeah.
But...
Well, yeah. Okay. So right when they get there, one of the kids is getting sick. It's Polly. He starts vomiting when they get out. It looks like he was kind of messing with something on the side of the road. And we also got shots of like some like random blobs here and there, like in the forest. Looks like some sort of like what people will call it's like space jelly or whatever.
It looked to me like this is nasty to even talk about, but like when you're really sick and you have like super thick mucus that you like spit up.
Sure.
Kind of looked like that to me.
Yeah. I could see that.
I think it's important to note, too, that Polly, I think, might be on the spectrum.
Yes.
And that adds a lot of tension between him and Jonah.
Right.
Because Polly doesn't respond to the normal, like, social cues that the other kids do. You know, but...
but also it's because he's the first infected.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Right.
It seems like they were trying to set that up a little bit, though. There's another comment that pops in that
I wonder
makes
if
me
in
think
2008 they would have even thought about that, though.
No, there's a comment. Who's the sister that she shows up? The people
Chloe.
There's a comment that Chloe makes that I think is a statement towards that, which we can get there.
Okay, go ahead and mention it.
So as the two families are like getting there and uniting and everything and like hugging and everything, they kind of start settling in, drinking and everything. And so Chloe makes the statement. She's like, "Did you read the stuff I sent you about the MMR?"
Right.
Which is one of the biggest anti-vaxxer things, saying that vaccines cause autism.
Yeah.
Which is 1,000 times debunked.
Right.
It's completely bullshit. If you still think that, seriously, please stop. Because it's completely false. But she really quickly references it. Like, did you read that stuff I sent you about the MMR jab?
Right. And the lady just kind of brushes it off.
Right. Like, she doesn't even really pay it any attention. We find out that that family's kind of a little more...
kind of hippy-dippy.
Yeah, granola.
Well, both families kind of have some weird quirks because, like, they're very, like, hippie-ish, like you would say. Very, like, alternative medicine. And then is it Jonah? He has this weird, like, marketing scam thing.
About China.
About
Chinese
like,
medicine.
Chinese medicine and
stuff, yeah.
alternative healing.
He's trying to sell his stepbrother on and shit.
Which is just...
But the family dynamics, I totally buy. Because we've all been in those situations, or maybe we have family members like this.
I've mostly
It could be
alienated
kind of
all
a
those
chore
family
to put up
members.
with.
I don't really see them anymore. They don't invite me, so I don't know.
Before we stray too far from it, too, I do think the actual opening of this film is, like, awesome.
Okay.
Just those, like, shots of, like, the snowy forest.
Yeah.
And, like, the music and how moody it is.
Yeah, for the most part, I think the movie's really well
It's
done.
really setting up the isolation, too, which I think plays a major role in the film.
And, you know, I thought, like, dude, these scenes are so gorgeous. This is awesome. What is this? And then the first shot you get of the people, it looks like a made-for-TV movie.
It's a questionable cast. I mean, I think they did fine. I actually didn't dislike the cast.
I found everyone pretty believable.
But it was I don't know, they did have that look of everyone being slightly too pretty, if that makes sense. Like everyone's slightly too perfect, but I also think that might be part of what they're trying to say.
Well, I mean, this is most movies, isn't it?
That's true.
You know?
Nobody cares.
I didn't find them distractingly attractive or anything, personally.
However, of the other family, the father in there, whose name is... I'm going to have a hard time keeping
Robbie.
his names. Robbie.
Cece.
He's got a weird attraction to Chloe.
There's a little bit of a flirtation.
Or no, to Casey. Casey,
Casey, the teenage daughter. Yes.
And apparently that's been a problem because in so when Casey's able to kind of, there's no cell service here as well. Like,
yeah, she has to walk out and away from the house to be able to make a call.
Yeah, and when she's actually talking to her friend she's going to try to slip away and go to a party with, she even says something like, why don't you just talk to your horny uncle or something like that.
Like, this has happened before.
So yeah, this is obviously an issue that's gone on. He fucking annoyed me.
I think everyone's supposed to annoy you a little bit.
I'll be honest, everyone annoyed me.
Yeah, they're supposed to.
All of the characters did piss me off, but it's
like Wendy in The Shining. They're supposed to annoy you.
He bothered me because he was like supposed to be the cool uncle and was like, oh, it's fine, it's cool, we can do that here.
Well, most cool uncles are assholes, really, aren't they?
I mean, I think that I'm a cool uncle.
Do you smoke weed with a teenager in your greenhouse?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, some might say that's cool, but some might also say that's like child endangerment or something, so there's a threshold where it becomes cool to where it becomes irresponsible.
Yeah, I think this guy pushed that threshold a lot, the whole time.
Mm-hmm. So the first night, we start to notice that the other kids are getting sick. They're also coughing. They're
all normal, hyperactive children at first.
I fucking hate them, though.
Well, yeah, again, you're supposed to. Because that's how it can be at all these family reunion things. You got a bunch of kids running around, and it's chaotic, and they're screaming, and you're like, oh my fucking God, shut up.
But the one kid, vomits a little bit on her bed, and it's, just there. And they do this, zoom-in shot where they show us, bacteria within it, writhing around, which is maybe the only hint they ever give about, what it is.
Because it doesn't really matter. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter what's causing it.
No, it kind of mattered to me.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to that. So yeah, all the other kids start acting weird too. We get a little bit of character backstory and stuff with Elaine and Jonah talking about her sister and her brother-in-law, about how they're kind of bougie or something. How they all have this money, but they don't work anymore. They sold some business, whatever. They're obviously jealous and talking about petty things.
And these are the ones that live in that house, right?
Yeah, in the big house, right?
Okay.
And Elaine and Chloe were having some conversations regarding their own mother.
Yeah.
About how they didn't invite her, don't want her to come.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a hint of abuse in the past.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
There's a lot of subtle subtext of little lines that I think... But that's one of my problems.
Okay, all right. We'll get there.
Then there's I think it's the next day, they're having
having a breakfast.
Having a breakfast. And oh my God, this scene. Every kid is screaming top level, max they can go.
Yep.
And
the adults are trying to have a conversation over them.
And they're just ignoring them.
Yeah, which happens all the time. I don't know how many times I've seen this. Okay. I don't have children. Okay. And I know that parents sometimes get used to their kids yelling and screaming, and it becomes background noise to them. But for everyone else, it's not.
That's being a bad parent, yeah. I'm not a parent, so I have no reference to that.
Right, I can't say anything about that.
I was
either.
watching this, my kid was playing around on the floor, and I was playing on the floor with him while watching it. So I was sitting there thinking, man, if you turn out to do this, I'm gonna be mad.
I mean, would you not stop and
But how many times have you seen this in real life?
Oh no, you see it all the time.
All the time.
But for me, I'm okay, we need to, because these children weren't of age where they didn't know consequences. They were old enough to know consequences of their behavior and to know how to behave.
Yeah, unless they're infected by some sort of weird virus.
But I don't think that had anything to do with their behavior. I don't know. I think they were just...
At that point, it does. At least one or two of them.
And another scene that kind of builds on this discussion, it's when they're playing outside at one of the times. I think it's one of the times where they kind of start something weird's happening with the kids, but it's a near-miss accident kind of thing. And the one dad goes to whip his kid.
Yeah,
that's Polly, yeah.
Jonah, Polly, the first one who was infected. And yeah, he just wails on him.
And
Robbie's like, hey, we don't hit kids here.
Yeah. It was actually a pretty innocent thing. The sled that they were all sliding down the hill on just got away from him, bumped into...
well, I think it was intentional. I think Paulie is infected at this point, and he wanted to do some damage.
Oh, okay.
Because they all start having violent
We've
thoughts.
also been shown some quick cut scenes where, they're playing with toys.
Yeah.
And they, foreshadow the kills they're going to make later.
Yeah.
Right. But either way, it could have been construed as an accident. And yeah, Jonah just starts wailing on him, which also, okay, maybe there's been some abuse in the past here. Mm-hmm. You know, because he loses his temper pretty quickly.
Yeah, Jonah's shitty.
And he's very shitty toward Casey.
Yeah.
Jonah's rough to watch. Like the uncle is bad in his own right. But Jonah's,
at least he's not wailing on his kids.
Yeah, Jonah's one of those characters that you're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, can you just stop?
Right.
Can you go away? There's a lot of things with, there is a scene like right when they first get there, and Casey is saying something about like what she can and can't do, and like they let her have whiskey. Mm-hmm. But they said, well, Casey's grounded. And Casey says in front of Jonah, she's like, oh, yeah, well, Mom, it's Jonah grounded me or something. And like, we just pretend it so he feels like he actually has authority.
Zing.
Like right in front of the dude. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
That was fucking rough.
Yeah. I mean, her drinking probably isn't a big deal because she's probably like 18 or something.
Yeah.
And that's the drinking age there. So.
Yeah. Well, it still seemed to be an issue for the family because the little girl, Miranda, tries to rat her out.
Yeah.
You know, and say, like, she's drinking whiskey.
And there's that one little funny scene where Miranda's trying to get their cat Jinxie over to her, but Casey has the cat, and she's, like, loving on her, like, rubbing it in Miranda's face.
Yeah.
There's some weird, like, tension there, you can tell.
Yeah. But then the cat goes up missing.
Yeah.
So right after that, like, outburst scene out in the snow, that's when this smoking weed in the shed scene happens.
Yes.
And we get a little more backstory on Casey, because she actually has a tattoo, which she's not supposed to have. Another typical teen plot kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. And it's this little, like, fetus with an umbilical cord that, like, runs into her belly button.
Yep.
And she tells them that it represents the abortion that got away, which is her.
Which is herself.
So that's another little tidbit to this dysfunctional family that we've got going on.
Right.
But that's where it gets a little creepy with the uncle, too, because, like...
Yeah, he's staring her down pretty hard.
Well, and then the wife comes in, too.
Yeah.
And then it looks even more inappropriate because she's pulling down her shirt to hide the tattoo, and it's like, what have they been doing? You know,
yeah.
to the wife's point of view.
It's definitely... It's one of those things where I've seen people try to say, like, well, that behavior is kind of innocent. And I'm like, no. As an adult, you set the tone for what you're around, and anything that might even look like, especially when children are involved, anything that might even, if you were alone with a child, if there's anything that might even look suspicious, you shut that shit down immediately because you set the tone. You're the person in charge there. And so, like, that's just goes to even solidify his character of being, you know, always like, oh, it's cool. Yeah. You know, everything's
little
cool.
Skeezy,
Yeah.
And at that breakfast where the kids are going crazy, that's where the sister-in-law, Chloe, rats out Casey's tattoo to her family. And that causes even more of a ruckus. You've got all this screaming, all this yelling.
And then during that, the Miranda, that little girl, she has a huge outburst, and it makes Jonah take her upstairs to, like, try to comfort her.
Right.
She ends up scratching Chloe, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's at that scene where Chloe ends up trying to step in to be like, no, it's okay, I can handle this, you know, and really trying to overshadow, like, I'm going to out-mom you.
Yeah.
And step in, and Miranda, like, scratches her face, which sets Chloe off. And Chloe's immediately like, these fucking kids. You know, like, she loses her shit over the kids. But there's also the sibling rivalry there, too, because we see Chloe talk about how she's going to homeschool her children. And the other sister's like, are you even qualified for that?
Right, yeah.
You know? Yeah. So there's already...
there's so much tension.
Disagreements on how to raise children.
It's very awkward. Like, these people clearly don't like each other.
That's typical family reunion, right?
I don't know. Again, I guess I just alienated all those, and I don't get invited anymore, so it's easier. So, pro tip, if you don't like your family, just...
Ignore them?
Ignore them, yeah.
So in the wake of that outburst at the table, that's where they kind of split everyone off. Jonah takes Miranda upstairs. Robbie tries to take the rest of the kids outside.
To play.
You're like, hey, let's play in the snow, de-escalate the situation. And then stuff starts happening.
Starts happening. Because, so Jonah's going down the sled on this hill, kind of a steep hill, going really fast. And Polly, the first kid who was infected, wheels out this wagon that's got like a big...
It's like an alien. like a little alien.
It's something they've built.
Yeah.
Like some sort
It's
of
a spaceman type thing.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what it was.
It's
But
like
it's got
some-
this hook hanging off, like a gardening implement or something.
Yeah, it's like that 3-pronged. It's like in every garden set. It's like a 3-pronged root digger or something.
Sure, I'm sure there's a name for it that someone's screaming at us right now that it's called.
3-pronged root digger.
Well, we're obviously indoor children. We don't know what that is. And yeah, it's hanging off the wagon, and he can't stop. He doesn't see it, whatever. And they don't actually show the impact.
No, because they don't need to. Because I think they did the smarter thing later.
Right. But you hear the children screaming, and the adults inside who are arguing are like, "Oh, what the hell's that?" They come running out, and yeah, Robbie's laying there in the snow, blood just dripping off his face.
They did a really nice maneuver there. Like the film is bloody. There's no.
There's some blood.
It's not like
It's not gratuitous.
No, it's not gratuitous. But they did it. It's like they knew what the budget they had, and so instead of showing him hit the cart, we just see them come out to try to check on him, and like there's a huge flap of his skull.
Yeah, they roll him over, and his skull just like flaps open,
and it just pours. And I was like, that was a smart move. Like you don't need to show it happen when you can
just show the effect.
Yeah, just show the effect, and it looks that good. And it did look good. It was a it was a good
nice.
effect.
Yeah.
And then I think also it's during this is when Casey's trying to run off, right? She's going to
She was going to meet up with her friend. They were going to go to some party.
And she hears the screaming, and that's what draws her back. And so they go to her, of course, she's like the oldest, so they expect her to be like the next level of authority, I guess. And they're like, well, what happened? And she's like,
I wasn't there.
I didn't
was
see
sneaking
it.
off, yeah.
But that immediately starts to draw like this suspicious line.
A very stupid, suspicious line.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to come out and say it. I hated the back half of this movie and the way they treat her. Because there's no logical sense behind where this goes.
I think that.
Well, also, these people just suffered a massive trauma. You're not thinking clearly when something like this happens. Her husband, he dies in the snow before any police can get there or anything.
Does he?
Well, they think he's dead.
They think he's dead. They call an ambulance. The ambulance is going to take at least 30 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just really setting up the remote location as well. That's. And they even say call police as well. Like no one's can be there anytime soon. As they kind of carry on, like they end up going back inside and leaving this dude outside. Like,
well, they tell them to leave the body where it is.
Right.
Yeah,
and they think he's dead at this point.
They leave him outside. They're going back in, and they're trying to like.
The kids are disappearing. They're trying to find the kids.
Yeah, the kids run
during
off.
the commotion, the kids run off into the woods.
Yeah.
And Casey gets blamed for that as well.
Right.
They're starting to say, like, well, you were supposed to be watching them. You know, the typical thing that happens to the older teenager. Like,
We've always got to find someone to blame.
yeah, exactly. Oh, shit.
So they go out looking for the kids, and basically the big thing, like, Paulie's on the jungle gym,
Yeah.
and he's trying to
Okay,
coax
this fucking scene.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the scene for a minute?
Okay, sure.
The jungle gym is so short, there was never a reason for the mom to climb up on it to get the kid.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, she's not really the brightest. She hasn't set herself up that well as to be, like, I don't know, the most, like, straight thinking under pressure.
Well, again, who's thinking straight in this situation?
That's true.
You know, someone just had a gory, unexpected death.
She's trying to get Polly down from this jungle gym thing. And
She's climbing up it, and he's kind of inching away from her, so she has to climb up further.
And she's wearing heeled boots for some
Yeah.
reason. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And he, like, pushes her, right?
No,
falls
she just
backward.
slips.
She slips.
Right.
Because she keeps trying to reach further, and then that makes her slip.
Yeah.
But she
and breaks
slips
her
and
leg.
gets her leg wrapped up in one of the bars, and as she falls, it just breaks her femur.
Yeah.
That is your femur, right? Like the
Yes.
shin?
It snaps out in the,
Yeah.
in the shot.
The shin bone that's connected to the leg bone.
Right.
I actually had a vaguely not as bad but similar thing happen to me when I was a little kid. I was doing like a monkey bars thing, and I like slipped and fell, and my leg shot between the like ladder for the slide.
You got a
shit.
compound fracture?
It sprained my ankle.
Oh,
It
okay.
actually was that bad.
So your bone wasn't sticking out at least,
No,
right?
but it made me
Not
think
that
of,
one.
it made me
Does it bring that back?
it made me think about that, and I was like, "Whoa, that could have been way worse."
Yeah.
than what it was.
I
Sure
hope
could've.
someone listens and catches that joke.
What was it?
You said their bone wasn't sticking out. I said, not that one. Yeah.
Join us next time as we try our new.
It's not me this time.
I finally got fired. I've been trying for so long. So she kind of passes out a little bit.
Casey grabs her and drags her into the greenhouse. And then they get beset upon by Polly.
Casey at this point knows that something's wrong with the children because one of them already tried to kill her, right?
Well, and she ran out into the woods to try to find them. And
one of those little fuckers shows up.
Yeah.
And she realizes, like, these children are doing
Yeah,
this.
there's something wrong with them.
There's something wrong with the children. And so when she takes her mom into the greenhouse, she's like fucking barricading the greenhouse and locking it down like they're about to be besieged.
Yeah.
Which turns out they are.
They are.
The one scene I did really like about this is when Polly shows up. Polly, like, breaks through the bottom of the glass of the greenhouse, and he's, like, crawling in, like, Mommy!
Yeah.
Mommy!
Sure.
But he's got a knife.
Scissors, yeah. And he's got a weapon now.
Yeah, and they're, like, trying to fight him off or whatever, and Casey gets pinned at one point. And he's going toward Casey. Like, he's going to stab her.
Yeah, he's going to straight up stab her.
And, of course, the mother's hobbled, but she reaches out and grabs the back of his coat and pulls him backward. And he lands on the broken pane of glass.
Yeah, and it goes through the back of
And
his
is killed.
skull. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, you messaged me. So Jason messaged me, like, after he'd already picked this film, like, midway through the week.
Oh, like, prepare you for it?
And he was like, hey, I forgot to ask, are you okay with child harm? And I was like, I'm sure it's fine. Halfway through this movie, though, I was like, fucking kill him, man. I'm so done with these kids. Like, whatever gets them away from me quicker. Like, I don't care.
Right.
So at first I was like, I don't know, like child harm. I don't know if I really want to watch it. But as the movie kept going, I was like, I don't care.
And so while that greenhouse scene is going on, it's Chloe notices that Robbie's body is gone.
Yes.
Yep.
Big blood stain and some drag marks.
And apparently it's in a tent.
Yeah, they had this tent set up outside that the children were playing in. One of the creepy little girls that's like one of Chloe's, one of her children, is out there, and
It's Leah. She's got these big eyes. Kind of creepy.
yeah, she just shows up too. Like, she's always just standing there. I was like, Jesus, kid, wear a bell.
Yeah, put Bell on that kid.
So when they make this big deal of, like, building up the tension of her going into the tent or whatever.
Yeah, because Elaine's saying, don't let her go out there. Don't let her go to the tent.
Yeah, she ends up opening up the tent and seeing Robbie's body in there, and he's covered up. So she pulls back the cover, and one of the children, I guess is that creepy-ass one, has cut open his belly and put her baby doll in it, sticking out.
That's a very effective scene.
Yeah. She'd already, like, been playing that way. Like, she'd put the baby under her shirt or whatever and then, like, pull it out. Right. So she was already kind of foreshadowing what was going to happen there. But then Robbie kind of, like, pops awake.
Yeah.
I guess he's not quite dead yet.
He is now after this.
Yeah.
Makes you think they maybe could have saved him if they dragged him inside.
Somebody had not left me out. I don't know. I think you're supposed to leave them. It actually slows the blood flow, I think, if they're in ice. I don't know. I'm not a medical person. I don't know.
We're not the ones to answer that.
Let's not dispense medical advice. Don't listen to us.
The only medical advice I will dispense on this show is if you continue to say that vaccines cause autism, you're a fucking asshole. Don't do that shit.
Right. This scene kind of bugged me with the editing. I didn't like this so much because some of the kids are trying to break into the tent, and it's a lot of frantic back and forth editing that kind of bothered me.
At Elaine's insistence, Casey kind of jumps to the rescue to try to get her out of there.
Right.
And she uses like one of the gardening tools, right? And she's trying to like cut a hole in the tent to just like open it up.
Yeah.
It's a fucking tent. It's not that hard to get out of, but it didn't even look that.
It is a weird scene, I think.
It's edited awkwardly. I think that's part of the problem.
And so we do see the children like kind of running off again, like it's guerrilla warfare for the children. Like they just hit and run.
Sure, yeah,
you know,
it's a good tactic.
Yeah, they're small. They got to do what they got to do.
Like Ewoks.
It's for me. This is where I started coming out of the movie.
Okay, how come?
I felt like we were starting to get to the point where the story wasn't progressing.
Well, to keep it going, they introduced this whole subplot where Chloe thinks that Casey is the one doing everything.
Yes.
And that she's responsible for it all, and she's been attacking everyone.
Because the kids ran off again. She thinks that Casey did something to the kids. Jonah finds Polly and freaks out that he's dead, and he's blaming them. He's blaming both of them, the mother and Casey.
Yeah.
And he grabs and runs Miranda, who's his little princess, and they get in the car and take off.
Yeah, they just leave. But I feel like the film kind of got hung up on that Casey subplot. And it just kept stalling there for me. Like, we get too long of a scene of showing them lock Casey into a bathroom. Like, I guess there's nothing wrong with these. They just felt like they dragged on a little too long, and we weren't continuing with child carnage. You know, like...
No, I didn't feel that way, but...
There was a part, to be wrong, kind of just back before it really like gets to this part. It's when the kids first run off in the woods. I was kind of still trying to like feel this movie out and be like, what way is this going to go? And I thought like, oh, okay, they're going to run to like the neighboring houses and start like killing the families that are there or something. I was like, how are they going to pad this out with like more kills or something? Yeah. And then the answer is they don't pad it out with more kills. They just...
Oh, it's not about a body count. You know, it's not what the movie's going for.
Well, in absence of everything else, I was fishing for something, you know.
Okay, so you weren't feeling it.
No, I was not.
All right.
Well, Casey ends up doing some like outdoor Girl Scout shit and like bracing her mom's leg. The funny thing was, I actually laughed out loud at this scene when Jonah's getting ready to take Miranda away. Miranda just runs in and grabs this braces.
Yeah, rips it right off.
Rips them out of her mom's leg and just takes off. And I was like, God damn, she's a little shit.
That is a great moment.
Yeah, that was good.
She like didn't kill her. Like, wasn't going to try to kill her or anything, but just like, fuck your leg.
Yeah, fuck you. And eventually, Chloe runs out. She's trying to find her kids. She finds them in the woods. They wind up killing her. Stab her in the eyeball. Another weird editing choice here. There was a bit too much back and forth.
I don't think they had the budget.
I think it was more of a choice of trying to sell the chaos of it, as opposed to like any type of budgetary restrictions. But I think holding on the shots would have been more suspenseful than quick cuts.
Yeah, I took issue with that.
That's me.
I guess maybe it is hard when you're working with kids, what you can do and how you can show it and stuff like that, maybe. But
what's the adage? Like, don't work with kids or dogs.
Well, so I was reading an interview with the director, and he was talking about when they were rehearsing for it, they were doing it very playfully. Like they said, for the adults to just over dramatize your death, you know, make it really crazy and out there, and we'll get the kids accustomed to that and work our way down to more realistic acting.
We'll just get the kids traumatized.
Get them getting traumatized.
So
how many times do kids play at killing each other?
I mean, all the time.
Right, it's natural, it's normal. So I'm sure they had a good time. Anyway, so the two kids go back, Nikki and Leah, go back to the house after killing their mother.
They're coming for Elaine.
She's up at the door trying to get Casey out. She's still hobbled and everything, and they're crawling up there.
There's a weird visual goof in this moment, too. So you see Casey banging on the door, and she's hitting it so hard the door's like bracing and like half opening and like bending. And then it'll cut to the other side, and the door's like completely static with no movement at all.
Well, continuity error. What you gonna do? Let's go ahead.
Well, one of the things that dragged on for me is the attempting to pick the lock scene. That just like I don't fucking need that. Like that dragged on a little too long.
It does amaze me how many times in movies people have so much problems with internal doors. Because they're typically not that strong.
No, you can bust those down.
Now, this is an old English farmhouse. Maybe it's a little bit tougher than most, but still, it's like that door's not going to stay up that long. Anyway, that's a lot of movies.
They struggled with that door a little too long for me, and I was starting to be like, okay, let's
I like
go.
the scene where the kids are coming up the steps, but Elaine can't kill them. You know, she says, "I can't. I'm sorry."
Casey handed her a knife, a kitchen knife, to basically protect herself.
Right.
But no, But I would be with her. Like, there's no way your brain's going to be like, I'm going to kill this kid.
Sure.
Even if it's obvious they might
kill you.
Like, you're still bigger, and you're like, I don't know. There's nothing in my brain that would immediately think, like, yeah, gotta off this little shit. You know, like, Dustin's like, I don't know how to kill the fuckers.
I could see someone having a problem with it, is what I'm saying, especially a mother.
Yeah,
you know?
It would be difficult.
But anyway, Casey gets
She finally breaks the door down.
Breaks the door. Oh, yeah, and there's that great scene where the door splinters, and they grab Nikki's head and pull him down onto the jagged piece sticking up.
Yeah, she didn't.
It's like that scene in The Raid.
Yeah, it's a good kill. That might be my favorite kill in the whole film.
Yeah.
No remorse whatsoever.
No,
it's just she's like, at this point, Casey's like, these kids have gone crazy.
Yeah, it's them or us.
Yeah, she's figured it out.
Oh, and I do like whenever they get back in before all this pops off, and Casey tries to like lock up the house before they trap her indoors. Mm-hmm. And when the kids come back, they just crawl through the doggy door.
Yeah, right through the doggy door. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so they end up leaving the final child just like standing there because she's kind of like dumbfounded that one kid just got his throat punctured.
Sure.
And is laying there dead, and Casey just grabs her mom, and they're like, "We're fucking out of here, man!" Like,
Yeah, they're driving.
they head to the car. They get the car started. There's obviously the scene where the car doesn't want to start, kind of a thing. It's
Of course.
it's got to happen.
No, it's winter. I can see that happen.
No, just get a good cold cranking amp battery. Like, Jesus, if it gets that cold, prepare your car. God damn it!
It's more Michael wisdom for you
Yeah.
on this episode.
It's one of them English cars. They even got steering wheel on the right side, Michael. What do you expect?
Oh, they got it on the wrong side. That's where they got it.
Yeah, they're driving down the road, and they come across their other vehicle, the one that Jonah took off with Miranda.
I kind of like the fact they just fucking left that kid.
Oh, yeah.
no
What
other
are you
money
gonna do?
around,
I'm
like-
going to leave it. It's going to kill us. I'm out of there.
Yeah.
But they find the vehicle. It stopped. No one's in sight. They're investigating. The mother's in the car. Casey's out looking, and they find Jonah buried in the snow, still kind of half alive.
Yeah.
Covered in blood. And then from the other side of the screen, Miranda comes running at Casey.
She's got a log or something.
Yeah.
She's got, something. And the mother just floors the car and rams the kid into the back of the other car.
That was actually a pretty ballsy scene.
Yeah.
Because all the child kills so far are pretty detached.
And they're fast. There's like fast cuts and stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
the one's even kind of like an accident in the greenhouse.
Yeah, that one's not. I wouldn't consider that like them
Right, it wasn't
purposefully
a
killing the
calculated
child.
kill. It wasn't like jabbing the one down on the wood.
But even then, like Jason was saying, that was a quick cut. They don't linger on it. This one, they pin Miranda to the back of the other car and just let her fucking slide down.
It's a fun shot from the inside of the car. You're looking at the back, and the kid goes up against, blood goes everywhere, and she just slides down.
I was like, well, that was ballsy. Like, okay, I wasn't expecting you to linger on that one.
So then there's kind of a lull here, and Casey starts getting sick.
Well, there's the weird thing where all these other kids show up.
Yeah, all the other kids. That's
Well,
right.
Casey
they see one
sticks
kid
it-
standing up by himself.
Casey finds a pile of vomit that she accidentally sticks her hand in.
That was earlier, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I was starting to wonder, like, okay, was Casey immune from this? Like, is she going to get sick?
It seems like it's only affecting children. And is she too old now, or is she still a child?
Yeah, or would it affect everybody?
Perhaps.
Or is it like, is it airborne? Is it,
Or maybe it's just that kids don't ever fucking wash their hands.
Well, yes, that's an important underlying message.
Wash your goddamn hands.
Germy, sticky hands. Oh my god. Oh my god. That is like, that's scarier to me than most things. It's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah, Casey, she sees Casey start to throw up, and she's hacking up that same like weird goo.
Right.
And I wasn't sure if that scene was like Casey getting sick, or the way they kind of sold it.
Is
was,
she infected, or is she just overcome by all this?
Yeah,
physically.
Is it supposed to be ambiguous? And then as they're
Well, the mother hesitates, letting her back in the car. All the kids are converging on them, and she's like, I don't know.
well, at this point, like all these other children start showing up.
Which probably explains why the cops are having a hard time getting there, because this is happening everywhere, apparently.
Maybe, yeah. But all these other children start showing up in the woods, and they're just like walking up, surrounding them, like they're getting ready to converge on them. And the little girl that they ditched back in the house, she's with them, so she's safe, guys. Don't worry. She made it out of there.
She made it out to kill more people.
Makes you wonder if it's like a hive mind thing or something almost.
Yeah, it's kind of a Village of the Damned riff going on here.
One of the movies that it reminded me of, I mean, it's a better movie than this one, was The Hallow.
I've never seen that.
Hallow's good.
It's kind of that same, it was a fungus type thing that can...
Well, The Hallow came out after this, so it probably ripped it off.
Yeah, it's Squid Gamed it. It's original.
So she lets Casey in finally, and they start driving off, and it kind of zooms in on Casey, and she's getting that absent, blank look.
Well, she does this like eye blink twitchy thing,
Yeah.
which earlier in the film, I think it's the Miranda kid. You see her doing that a little bit.
So it intimates that she's now infected, or is she just traumatized? I don't know.
End of movie.
End of movie.
End of movies. Cut to credits.
Yeah.
The children.
Okay.
So you guys obviously didn't care for this movie.
It's not I didn't care for it.
Well, what are your thoughts? Let's discuss. That's what we're here for.
I'll go the positive route here because I think Dustin's got some shit talk to do.
It's fine.
It just didn't wow me.
Sure.
Like I think it nailed tone pretty well. I think there's a pretty dreadful tone that permeated the film that I think was palpable. The isolation movies get me too. Like I think isolation is a good tactic.
Oh yeah.
You know, to make you feel like, oh, there's nobody that's going to be able to help me, sort of a thing.
It just felt weird to me that they were like playing up the isolation thing, and then when you see them leaving in the car, it's like a cleanly paved road out there.
Yeah, well, I think it's a community. I do think there's a community out, and it's very rich people community. Like I could see this.
Yeah, I don't think they're like miles from people. I
No.
mean, rural England is still not nearly as rural America.
Yeah.
You know, you can only be so far from other people in England, whereas here you've got, I mean, how much more distance do you have in the States?
It kind of felt like there was some sort of like kind of distant communities here. Like the houses were obviously for wealthier people, based on their size.
There it is.
There it is.
But I don't know.
Okay.
It kind of frustrates me because I want to like this.
Sure.
I really want to like it. I like the premise. I think the tone is done well, but there's just too many things that take me out of it. Like a lot of the editing's just really too fast.
There's some poor choices.
It's too fast for the film. Like, I think there's some. For every time that the film shows real balls and does something that I'm like, ooh, wasn't expecting that, it chooses to not do something else. You know, like, granted, I don't think you need to linger on a child kill. I don't think that's...
Yeah, you don't want to get gratuitous.
I don't think that's appropriate to do that. But at the same time,
this
like...
isn't August Underground.
Yeah.
Boredom or something like that.
And I think probably a good part of it is that I hated the characters so much. There wasn't a single likable person there for me. Like, even Casey, I hated. Casey just reminded me of me in high school.
See, I didn't hate anyone. I found them to be realistic characters.
Maybe that's why I hated them.
No, I didn't like them, but at the same time, I didn't hate them.
Maybe because they were realistic is why I hated them, because I don't like people.
One of my hang-ups, I would say, is that I felt that every single character was like grossly unrealistic and just like wacky, off the rails the whole
I thought
time.
they were pretty normal. And
like it felt to me like they took a general idea of a dysfunctional family, and then they were like, okay, let's crank every single person to 11.
No, you're thinking of the Rob Zombie Halloween films. When it comes to dysfunctional families, that's all the way to 11. That's ridiculous.
Except that's better than this movie.
Wow. Oh my God. Now, everyone's quirks and idiosyncrasies and annoying mannerisms I bought in this movie. I know people like this.
I think a big difference in it too is I think the people that I choose to be around are nothing like this, but I have been around a lot of affluent people that are very much like this.
Sure.
Like, they have wealth, enough wealth that it makes them think that they're, like, slightly better than everyone else, and so therefore their opinion matters more, and I don't know. It's even like that whole... I was really pissed off by the anti-vax parents. They just,
you're supposed to be.
I have trouble getting past them. Like,
right. No, that's the point.
And when you talk about when people like criticize horror films and they say these throwaway, like disposable characters, everyone makes dumb decisions. I felt like this film was just like running down that line, like checking every box it could, as like hard as it could.
Okay, so you think that in the middle of a crisis like this, everyone's going to act logically and rationally?
There's zero reason.
When you see your spouse die in the snow,
there's zero reason to assume that Casey is the one behind it, especially when she shows up there to save her in the middle of being attacked by
sure,
kids.
but you see there's this underlying tension between her and Casey anyway. She's obviously like jealous of her or suspicious of her or something. And I could see someone just sort of snapping and just blaming the nearest person, blaming someone they don't like.
But I don't think that's what they depicted.
Okay, I bought it. That was my inference. I don't know.
Jason just
Maybe
wanted...
I'm projecting. I don't know.
Yeah, he was like, I want to kill that kid. Fucking kill her. Yeah, she's done.
Okay,
she's done.
Continue.
Well, and that's it. I was just so frustrated the entire time. There are amazing moments in this film, like individual slices, some of the kills, the ideas, those opening shots, like those really like shot me up, and I was like ready to love this film out of the gate. And then they like almost immediately squandered it for me.
Okay.
And I really wanted to love this movie after Hold the Dark. Just to like stick it to you for giving me a tough time, Michael. But I couldn't do it.
Well, one of the things we were going to talk about did bother me a little bit, and I think I had a little trouble with it.
Okay.
We watched this on Tubi, and we talked about how Tubi has a really killer selection.
They have a good horror films.
We should sidetrack to talk about Tubi for a second.
But Tubi has ads.
Sure.
And
that's the payoff. It's free. There's ads. Okay.
I felt like the ads were very poorly placed.
I think there's an algorithm, I'm sure. Like every few minutes, they do X amount of ads. It
doesn't
doesn't matter where it's placed.
I do respect that they give you like a heads up in the corner. They're like, hey, ad in 5, 4, 3,
Yeah.
2.
But they come at horrible times.
They were very poorly placed for... I don't know if it's the same for everybody, like when the ad will hit.
But then when you've got a feature like a cinematic film, there's no good place for an ad.
Yeah, it's so that... I think that hurt me watching it because it does break the tension.
It's not the best way to view this movie or any movie, really.
Yeah, it does break the tension. So then I found myself wondering, like, okay, if I watched this in a setting where I didn't have that to break it, because sometimes the ads would show up, like there's a big build or whatever. It's like, oh!
And then there's 2 minutes of ad or 3 minutes.
Welcome to the dog pound! Like, yeah.
You're right. And maybe this is something we need to think about going forward. Maybe we should try to watch these movies in a more pure form and avoid ads in them.
I was out before the first ad, so...
Wow, okay, all right.
I'll just throw that in there. But Tubi itself, they actually have some impressive catalog, I think.
They do.
If we talk beyond this film, like, if you just want to watch some movies, it's a pretty respectable like lineup of things that they have, especially the genres they reach out into.
Yeah.
It's a real double-edged sword, though, because I think some films, it wouldn't matter.
Sure, if you're watching some dumb slasher flick, it doesn't matter if there's an ad.
And maybe the problem is there is no option for like a paid no ads.
I checked for that, yeah.
And I respect that that's their thing, that they're just trying to do that, but you got to weigh that, I guess.
It's free, so well, how much can you expect for something free?
So I'm not looking for like excuses to say like, well, maybe I didn't like it because of this, or maybe I didn't like it because of
Well,
that.
you don't need an excuse.
And it's not that I didn't like it. Like, I don't want to be really, really harsh on the movie, because I think that it does have moments of merit and moments that I think really did work. Mm-hmm. But it's just as a whole for me, I didn't feel that it was effective as it could have been.
Okay.
And I think part of it is where, and that's clicking with me now, is that when you talked about this director did a lot of television, it feels like it could have been a TV movie.
I thought that like every time it shows just the family interacting, it's always like these very straight frame shots with like, there's nothing really like visually interesting going on.
Visual storytelling, I think, is an art of its own, and there are some films that tell a great visual story but a shit actual story, like there's plenty of those. But yeah, maybe it's just where this director is so used to working in TV, and I think that could have been pacing issues too. Like it wasn't that, because I took issues with some of the pacing of the film, so that could be part of it. I don't know.
See, I didn't have any pacing issues, and the scenes you're talking about with the family, where it's kind of like the camera is kind of locked down at certain points, and it's like medium shots getting everyone in the frame. That didn't bother me either, because I think the point was to present an almost TV-like mundane, normal, like safe sort of environment.
But then everyone's running around like a psychopath.
That's the point, right? And that's the counteract to the visuals there. That was my impression.
I don't know.
The only complaint I have filmmaking wise were those editing choices I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
Do you like Krampus?
I love Krampus.
I thought about that a lot while I was watching this film. The early part where it's just the family interacting.
Isolated and stuff. Yeah. Nah, Krampus is a great movie.
I just feel like in Krampus they do everything that I am thinking is like off about the children.
Oh, I think Krampus is a better film, but I think the children is. My deal with the children is I think it's not talked about enough. I think it is a movie that people should check out if they like this subgenre. Which let's get to that. What kind of genre is this?
Killer Kids.
Killer Kids subgenre.
I think that's a very fair statement because I had no idea this movie existed, and the poster's absolute shit. So
it is pretty.
It's
bad.
not the best, but I've seen far worse.
it's just so substandard,
especially when you put it up against the 1980 children. Because when you first told us this and I Googled it, the other one came up and I was like, oh, what the fuck is this movie?
Right.
There's just nothing about this poster that would make me click this movie.
Sure.
You know, like...
No, I get that, yeah.
So therefore, if somebody hadn't have told me... But God, I can think of so many films that...
Yeah.
Like, one that
I think this stuck with me more because when it came out around 2008, there was a very dry period of horror. Like after the J-horror boom and stuff like that. We got some good stuff around the turn of the century, and then it sort of dried up for a bit.
Oh, and I should say, Michael, you and I are kind of in the minority on this, I think, because I looked at like reviews from the time when it came out. And there was actually quite a bit of high praise, like from Bloody Disgusting and other places like that.
I could see that. And so I just had this thought. Do you ever feel that maybe your impressions or thoughts of a movie are skewed because it initially made you mad?
Of course.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like, I wonder if because I kept thinking of ways that I wanted this to be better or things that I felt could have worked, it's almost skewing like my actual thoughts of the film because I'm like, well, if they would have done this.
Right. You're not judging it by its own content. You're judging it by what you would have done instead.
If they would have done this, it would have been better. And now I'm like, well, that makes it inferior. But also, I didn't make the movie. Right. And I'm not in Hollywood or a filmmaker, so what the fuck right do I have to say anything, you know? Like,
but I mean, also, what's there is what's there.
Yeah.
And so
I almost feel like I get frustrated. I got more frustrated at this movie, and therefore it ended up kind of tainting me through the rest of the movie, like, because I would get frustrated at certain things, and now I'm like, well, shit. It's like if somebody gets on your nerves, then everything else they do gets on your nerves. So I don't know. Maybe it was a little clouded.
I think if you like the Killer Kids genre, if you want to get into that genre and see a bunch of the films, this is one you should check off on the list.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk real quick about some of the most important Killer Kids movies.
Okay.
So we've got The Bad Seed from 1956.
Classic.
Which is probably the first Killer Kid movie. It has kind of a cop-out ending, but anyway, it's worth watching. Then we get Village of the Damned in 1960, which is a stone cold classic.
That was probably the first one I saw of this genre.
That's a good one. One I want to give a shout out to, which was on my list to do at some point, Who Can Kill a Child from 1976. Our friends at Unsung Horrors recently did an episode.
I was going to say, they just did that.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'll
check
link
that
it in
out.
the show notes.
Yeah, it's good. It was poorly remade. It's come out in play in 2012.
I never saw that.
No, I didn't either.
Please avoid it.
Okay.
Luckily, no one really talks about it. The director, I forget his name. He goes by like one name. And the movie is pretty much shot for shot. There's nothing original in it. He didn't change anything up. And at the end, it's like, directed by this guy. Like it. I don't even want to say, yeah, I'm not even going to look up his name. I care that little. It's the only movie he's ever done.
Oh.
And he's presenting it like he did this. Like he's so badass. And, fuck you. Anyway.
One I want to shout out real quick.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I would say it's a good movie, but I just like it a ton, is Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn on my list. Yep, absolutely. It's not a good movie. The first 10 minutes.
I mean, no, really, honestly, truly, it is not, but I do love to watch it.
The first 10 minutes are awesome.
Yeah.
When they're killing everyone in the town and stuff. That's cool. Mm-hmm. There's a short made of this. I forget who directed the short. Children of the Corn. That's much closer to the short story, and it's pretty chilling. It's really good. Maybe we can look that up later and put it in the show notes.
No way to know.
Try to find it.
No way to know.
Children, as we mentioned before, The Omen could be a Killer Kid movie. I don't know if that really counts. Son of Satan and all that.
Kind of straddles the line, I think.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery. God,
Undead.
I love Pet Cemetery.
Yeah. But I mean, it's always been this taboo against you can't kill kids on screen and stuff like that, which obviously before this movie, other movies were breaking that taboo.
And Village of the Damned had a remake too, right?
Yeah, John Carpenter. It's not good. But it was one of Christopher Reeve's last films, so it's kind of worth watching for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like when The Walking Dead killed a kid in the first episode, and everybody made a huge deal out of it. And that little girl is actually running the horror convention circuits. She was on screen for like 2 seconds.
Doesn't take much to get a
that's
career
awesome.
these days.
And got shot, and so she's milking that for what it's worth.
Yeah, more power to her.
And so everybody made a big deal out of it, but
I will say, like, I ended up not liking the TV show for Walking Dead that much. I do love the comics, but I thought that was a good first episode just to set the tone.
The first season was good, and then anyway.
well, that's what happens when Darabont leaves. So.
One thing this made me think of, like the children's behavior and their complete disregard for the safety of others and intent to harm the adults, was this really interesting but disturbing documentary called Child Rage, A Story of Abuse, that was made in 1990 about Beth Thomas. She was a 6-year-old girl who, along with her infant brother, were adopted. And she had extremely violent tendencies. She would torture her little brother. She would torture animals. She would act inappropriately with older men. She would try to harm the adults. They took her to a psychiatrist, and it's all about her talking about how she just wants to kill. She wants to hurt. She has these fantasies of killing the adults, her parents, her adoptive parents. And it turns out that she was horribly abused.
Sure, there's got to be
right.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Absolutely, it wasn't some space virus. It was the real life, horrifying reality. Luckily, it has a happy ending because she got help and she went on to live a full life.
Only killed like 3 people.
She didn't kill anyone.
Oh, that's impressive.
But she got the help she needed, and she's good. But if you're interested at all in psychology and stuff like that, it's a fascinating watch. It's horrible, it's hard to watch.
Yeah, well, I don't think the children. I don't think the children did that.
It's just when you watch the documentary, though, like just her detachedness.
Yeah,
it made me think of this. I wouldn't be surprised if the director had seen the documentary before doing it.
Sounds like an interesting side dish if you're into this subgenre.
Yeah. Anyway.
And you need a feel-good Friday night night film.
Well, it has a happy ending.
It's tough, but,
All right, final thoughts?
Let's do final thoughts. Michael,
okay.
Set us off.
I'm going to settle on a 2.5, I think, on this one.
Commendable.
There's a lot of things that I did like about it. Tone, like things I've already mentioned and everything.
Sure.
Equally things, though, that I just didn't care for, which I've already hashed out and gone over. I do think I think that it's an important entry in the killer kid genre. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can overlook that. So I think if you're on a binge, like trying to soak up all the killer kid movies, definitely add it in.
And how many New Year horror films have there been? There's been a few, I know. But,
New Year's Evil. Yeah. I think Terror Train was set to New Year's, wasn't it? But anyway,
that's another line on this one. You might want to toss it in.
So I don't think your time's wasted if you choose to watch this film. It's easily accessible too, which I think,
if you don't mind ads.
Yeah, if you don't mind ads. But that also comes into play with us sometimes, like with some of the films that we watch. Like, they're not always easily accessible, so it's kind of hard to get a hold of some of them.
Yeah, there's no Blu-ray for this. And the DVD, I think, is on Amazon. And sometimes you can find it in used stores and stuff.
So, yeah, I'm going to settle it at 2.5. No knock on anybody that likes it more. But
that's average, sure.
Yeah.
Dustin.
Okay, I don't think I need to explain any more of my feelings. I think I've pretty much
you've done quite enough.
I've covered all my thoughts and feelings successfully this time. And, I don't want to just sit here and say I hated it, but it really was, like, pretty unappealing to me. And I hate that because I want to, praise every movie I watch and find the good stuff. And there is good stuff in here. There are really great kills at some moments, some great shots. But when you add it all together, it was a miss for me. So I would give this like 1 star.
Wow. Damn.
I think if you're in those lanes where it's like you're looking for any New Year horror you can watch, if you're looking for any killer kid movies you can watch, you should just toss this in and watch it. You may very well feel differently than me, and that's cool. But
it's actually only an hour and a half, too.
Yeah.
Very short.
It's not a big investment.
Very economical runtime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very sensible.
Jason, take us home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying this is the next best thing ever or some undiscovered classic or something, but I think it's a solid killer kid movie. I think it's pretty well acted. I think it's mostly well shot. I got a thing about, Something about seeing kids get killed. I don't know.
You and Erica from Unsung Horrors, man.
We're of a mind. It's just, there's something about it. I don't take joy in it. I think because it's one of those, and this, like you said, it's on
a taboo
TV now. But yeah, it's still considered by most people as something you don't do.
Yeah.
It's like killing an animal or something in a movie. You know, you don't do it, but it could be very effective when you do it.
There's a whole website devoted to warning people if an animal dies.
Exactly. But we can see human carnage all the time. It's still not real.
Yeah.
Anyway, I give it 3.5 stars.
All right.
So I think it's a very good movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie. It's the sort of thing I wish he would do another feature film, because I think this director has, some talent and some potential. Oh, this is so... Okay, so during an interview when this came out with Cineropa, he was asked what future projects he has, and he said he had a few floating around. He said not all are horror movies, but one most certainly is. It's a great project called Hell Train. He said, imagine if Sam Raimi was transported back in time to the mid-'60s to make a classic Hammer movie on a train bound for hell.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
I want to see this movie. So if that screenplay is still floating around, if Shankland still has it, someone let him make this movie. We need this movie.
I'd watch that in a heartbeat.
Hell yeah.
Could he deliver it?
Yes. I have faith in him. I think he can.
I'd say...
Do it, Tom.
Yeah, give him a decent budget so he can do the gore gags, because if he said Sam Raimi, it's going to have some gore gags. So give him the money to do the budget right. And just let him play.
And this is based on a screenplay that was originally titled Miria, which is an anagram of Raimi.
Yeah, like wow.
So anyway, make that movie.
Dustin, it is your pick next.
It is my pick, and it's actually our last episode of the year. Which is kind of a big thing.
I think I see it over there,
I've been debating.
Really excited.
A part of me wanted to do another Christmas film just to kind of complete this chain. But there's a problem with this year and the movies we've picked. I have never done an episode about my favorite director, Shion Sono.
Oh, but you talked about him a lot.
I've talked about him a lot. We need to cover one of his films. He actually has a Christmas movie. The problem is, the only way to watch it right now is there is a Region B Blu-ray. Period. Like, full stop. You can't stream it anywhere. It's nowhere. It's very hard to get at. And right now with our situation, you with the kid, we're having a hard time linking up. We kind of have to remotely watch everything.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to file that away for another year. At some point we'll come back to it. It's interesting. Jason, you've seen it. We'll talk about it sometime. Yep. So we need to do a Sono film.
Okay.
And we need to end the year with a blast. And there's no better way to end the year with a blast than with a radioactive blast. So what I have selected for us for our final film of the year is Sono's latest film, Prisoners of the Ghostland.
I'm so excited for this.
And it's streaming on Shudder. It's out now. It's very easy to access if you want to watch it before we talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And prepare yourself for me to just geek out incredibly next episode.
And prepare for me to tear it apart.
I just didn't care for this. All right, so next week, or next time, Prisoners of Ghostland, Shion Sono, there'll probably be a lot of shots being taken, because it'll be like a lot of I've got the blues.
I've got it all.
And then like Shion, you even got the 4K for this one, and you don't even have a 4K player or TV.
Well, I thought I could just come over to Jason's and con him into it.
Please do.
So until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, we enjoy interacting with you on all the socials. Thanks for writing us, commenting. We have a ton of fun with that.
Please do, and please keep sending us suggestions for movies to watch.
Yeah, we got a few backlogged from you guys, which we're excited to get to. But
we don't care. We'll cover anything.
Yeah, we need more.
Yeah.
Need more. All right. So until next time, you've been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.